Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work. Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good devil.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Now we're going to move on to our first spoiler review of the week, which, like we mentioned earlier in the show, it is the long-awaited sequel to Coming to America, Eddie Murphy's sequel, Coming to America, with the number 2 in the title. So, Kirk, we'll toss over to you first. What were your thoughts on Coming to America?
I enjoyed every moment of it. If fans could have made this movie, which I feel like the directors and the actors were all fans of this movie also because it's such a cult classic, everyone did a fantastic job carrying that torch, in my opinion.
Okay. Ernesto, your first thoughts?
I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a great follow-up from the original. Like, you know, the plot was a little expected, but I don't think that was the point. I just think it's exactly what it was supposed to do. You know, it was like an homage to the first one, but kind of giving you an update on the lives of all the characters and found a way to expand it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought the way they de-aged Eddie Murphy and the way they were able to use old footage and create a new scene from an older scene that connects in the original film. I thought that was pretty original. I liked how they did that. I wasn't totally on board until when they all got together in the house, when the whole cast got together there. I felt like the movie took a positive turn. Like I felt like things are getting going. Things were great. We knew halfway, you know, I watched it with the wife, and we knew halfway, I was like, oh, they're going to make the daughter the queen. I was like, oh, you know, but I think what Coming to America does great is it's a great take on social commentary, like kind of just taking the status of the world and kind of throwing little things here and there. Like they were, you know, women's rights, you know, in the barbershop, the guy's like, you know, I have a grandson I have a grandson who's now my granddaughter. It's like, you can do that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I thought it was great. It was a great addition to the series. I don't necessarily know if they would need to make a third one. I felt like this encompassed, it was a great close to that series. Like these two movies, this is all it really needs for it to go on.
I agree.
Yeah. So I have never watched the first Coming to America prior to watching this one. So when I watched both films, Coming to America 1 and 2. And so I will say that I enjoyed the first one a lot more than the sequel. I don't think anyone's going to argue me on that, unless I'm wrong. But I felt like the first one had a lot of charm, especially at the very beginning. Like you're introduced to this world of Zamunda, and this guy is literally being pampered on everything that he does. Like he does nothing for himself, and he's like, "Well, can I just tie my shoes? Can I just do that?" And then James Earl Jones like, "I did that once. It is not pleasurable. You don't want to do that. You don't want to tie your own shoes." And so then he goes on this journey to America to find, you know, just something different, and he's so happy to be staying in this shithole of a town. At least that's what the movie was portraying. And he meets these interesting group of characters, and then ultimately it's a movie about finding love, and finding true love. And I felt like this movie was not about that at all, in my opinion. I enjoyed seeing the same familiar characters return. And for me, I only waited minutes, not 30 years, or 20, how long has it been? 85. So yeah, over 30 years, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have to wait, 30 plus years to see this movie. So it was cool to see how they well, if anything, it's kind of nice to see that Eddie Murphy still has it. Like,
He
those
does.
characters haven't really changed that much. Like, his energy, Eddie Murphy's energy for those characters are exactly the same, and they're still there. And it's iconic Eddie Murphy playing multiple characters. And so I like that aspect about the movie. I think that Leslie Jones and Kiki Leanne, who plays Eddie Murphy's daughter, I thought they were great. The person who plays his wife, she definitely, I feel like she's been taking a break from acting for a while, and decided to come back. Shahar, yeah. I feel like she was a little stiff compared to everyone else. James Earl Jones and his appearance in the film was great. Morgan Freeman was funny to watch. Wesley Snipes was a great comedian.
Hilarious.
I really liked his. I have to say, out of everything, he probably stood out the most to me. I just loved how. I kind of liked how like over the top he kind of was.
Yeah, absolutely. I just felt like that this was like a carousel of cameos, and the first movie wasn't about that. Like every couple of minutes, like, oh, is that Trevor Noah playing?
That's right. Yeah, I did see that. That's right.
As the reporter, like I was like, oh, those are those characters from the first movie, and then it's like, oh, there's Salt and Pepper and In Vogue and Gladys Knight. It's like, what? What's going on? And I feel like the first movie wasn't really about like that. I guess when you have money, you can bring in these cast of characters back into the mix. But I felt like the story was a little weak. It was obviously the reversal of the first movie in a way. It was Eddie Murphy. The whole movie took place in America for the most part, and now in this film, the whole movie took place in Zamunda, which I appreciated more. I like that the movie took place in Zamunda because I think that's the most interesting part about this whole franchise he has going. And so the fact that we took the time to stay here instead of... Honestly, I thought once we went back to America, I thought the whole movie was about him trying to find his son and convincing him to come back.
Yeah, same.
And luckily that wasn't the case. And so... But then I also felt like... Ernesto, you mentioned that you liked that they brought back old footage to tell this other side of the story that wasn't in the first one. But at the same time, for me, I feel like that was a very cheesy retcon to throw in there when you could have easily written in the story that he has a son.
Yeah, but then I felt like that was a way for them to show us that. Now, one thing I do feel like there were certain, maybe like when, perfect example, when his son goes for the job interview and the guy, I don't remember his name, the guy who's married to Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, Colin Jost.
Colin Jost. It felt very Saturday Night Live-ish.
Yes.
It's like, why is he asking him these like outrageous? Who the hell asked that on a? It's like, oh, did your dad leave you? Oh, yeah. That's why. It's like no one would ever say that. Like that. That would never happen. But yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I enjoyed it, but I do think that you can't take away what the first one brought. Like like that's the original one. Like you can't outbeat that.
No, absolutely not. No, and that's why I feel like that the first one had a very strong story, despite how the movie ended. And Ernesto, I talked to you about this. I felt like it was like a very abrupt ending for the first movie, but ultimately, they got together and it was a happily ever after. Whereas this movie was again the same thing. You have Eddie Murphy was a fish out of water in America. Now Eddie Murphy's son, or King Akeem's son, is now a fish out of water in Zamunda, and he finds love in a place where he doesn't necessarily belong. So the story was fine. I just felt like that this was more of a comedy, where the other one had a little more heart, if I'm comparing the two. Kirk, where were your thoughts on the whole, the son angle to this whole thing?
So I understand why they had to make the retcon and kind of add something in, because you needed some type of thing to push the story, right? Mm-hmm. Like, all daughters needs a son to push the movie forward. What I really enjoyed was the one-liners, because that's what I usually remember from Coming to America, are like watching the movie and then saying the jokes throughout the school to all your friends because they've seen the movie too. because that exactly happened at the office, like where I work. Once people were watching the movie, the week it came out, it became that like giggle thing because everyone knew, like, watched this really funny show. Same thing like Napoleon Dynamite. You know how everyone would say a certain line and whoever was big fans would watch it or laugh in the response?
Yeah.
So that's how I enjoyed Coming to America, because as I sat and I watched it with my wife and then another day I watched it with my brother, we were just laughing at the one-liners that we haven't got to enjoy in a while. And, you know, like, obviously the famous one where he's, like, taking a bath and the characters come out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, like now that you met, like, that's this movie, that's this scene, and with this new one, I enjoyed having those old school style of, like, comedy again, if I guess that's the best way of saying it, and adding some newer flair to it, because I went into the movie knowing it was a comedy movie. Like, I know the story wasn't going to be the strongest, but I wanted the comedic timing to be perfect. I wanted the jokes to, like, be fluent, because I laughed from start to finish, even if I was laughing at an old joke or a new one that they brought to, like, the interview. Like, that was awkward, completely awkward, but that's the new generation of interviewing versus what they used to have to do working at McDonald's.
Right. Yeah.
Or Mr. What was it? Mickey McDowell's.
Yeah, it was McDowell. And then it was the constant joke of, like, we're not McDonald's. They have the McFlurries. We have the McFlurbies. We put the toppings on the bottom.
Like, see, like, so, like, that's what I enjoyed about the movie so much. Like, those one-liners that, like, everyone's gonna chuckle, because there's gonna be a time where we're all eating ice cream and you're all gonna say that same line. So I really enjoyed it for that emphasis, because, again, I'm gonna watch it for, like, I think I watched Coming to America twice and then Coming to America once, like, back to back, to, like, get the flow. And if it was modern day and it was a sitcom, I can see how Coming to America could have been cut up to multiple episodes and continued on to, like, because you realize as you see the takes, like you said, you can see a hard difference between the montage of what was happening and then when they got to the new country, they continued a whole different storyline without, referring to it again. So I enjoyed that because I didn't want it to be a whole montage movie.
Yeah, and I understand, like, I know the title is going back to America and they went back to Queens. I felt like just in the story's sake, like, it almost felt like they didn't need to, because they spent so little time there that, like, you had to really come up with a strange reason, and also bringing back Leslie Jones into the mix to retcon the fact that you had an unknowingly one-night stand after a drunk experience, or what did he have a drink?
No, she got him high.
He got him high. That's right. Yeah.
He said, "I remember this vivid dream of being humped by a ram."
Yeah. And then he remembered, and then he started choking Arsenio Hall. I think the strongest thing about this movie was the fact that, like, Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy, they still got it. Like, 30 plus years later, they have not missed a beat. And also just proves that Eddie Murphy is still, one of the kings of comedy. Like, it still works. Like, he even brought in a new character this time around with that really old Zamundan citizen.
Yes. The witch doctor.
But I think that was Arsenio Hall, wasn't it?
Was it?
I'm
pretty
sure it was.
Yeah.
It looked like him.
Well, either way, whoever did it, that character was definitely brand new to the franchise. That was not in the first one. I enjoyed seeing the old geezers back in the barbershop.
Oh, that was enjoyable.
I thought that was really funny. Also, there's no way they still look the same 30 plus years later. I'm sorry, those guys are dead. The people who work in the barbershop. But it's a movie and they still got it. I think one of the best lines in the movie was King Akeem walked into the barbershop and he's looking for his son before the wedding. And then he's like, "Where's my son?" And then, "I think he's over there." So then he just storms out. And then one of the barber, or the main barber guy, he goes, who the hell does he think he is? Just because he's thinking, I got a dog named King, doesn't mean he's the king. And then he's like, he's not the king. He's not the king of my barbershop. I'm the king of my barbershop. And then the other guy's like, I liked him better when he was a prince. It's like, I just thought it was so funny, like very quick, and also just like he's talking to himself basically, and so he's able to have that, and that level of comedic timing was just great. So. Ultimately, if we're gonna wrap up this our review, I would say that it was it's great to see Eddie Murphy back into form. Great to see Arsenio Hall back doing the same classic characters. But I just wish that the story would have been as strong as the first one, because I thought the first one was really good, and this one was more comedic than and I wish the story had a little more heart as well. But the story was fine for what it was. Ernesto, what were your kind of final thoughts on?
I thought it was good. I thought it was it was a great follow up to the second one. But obviously it doesn't compare, because I just felt like it's different. It's the same, but it's also different. Yeah. It was good. I'd watch it again. It had some funny moments. But if anything, this gets me excited for what Eddie Murphy has coming after. Because it seems like he's starting up again. He got Coming to America. He just 2019 was Dolomite Is My Name, and then he's coming out with Triplets, and then he's got Beverly Hills Cop 4, which is coming out.
Oh,
that's right. So like he's pulling. There's somebody that was bringing back old movies that they were in. I forgot who it was. But an actor was doing the exact same thing. But it looks like he's just kind of dipping into his back catalog and like, oh, you can have a sequel and you can have a sequel. And that's what we're going to do now right now.
But like Arsenio Hall hasn't had anything since 2014.
Wow. So
when he re-released the Arsenio Hall show.
Wow. So that's quite surprising that he's been out of acting for so long. But Kirk, what were your final thoughts on Coming to America?
Wanted to point out the costuming was fantastic.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Like some of the high notes of a lot of it. Costuming was great. The music was amazing. Even some of the scenery shots, even with the elephant, bringing in those particular nods. Enjoyed those details that they added. So when all said and done, like every time they change outfit, I wish I could have just like, I want to add that to my wardrobe.
Overall, you pretty much enjoyed just seeing the classic characters return.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So there you go. There's our spoiler review on Coming to America. It is currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. Hey, thanks for listening to this edited version of our weekly podcast, Box Office Bingers. If you want to hear the full version of all of our episodes, which includes us discussing entertainment news, movie and TV reviews, guest interviews, and other things we've been watching, you can find us on wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you want more from us, be sure to hit that subscribe button and find us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, Facebook at Box Office Bingers, email at boxofficebingers@gmail.com, and Matt, we're even on the Tiki-Takis. We're on the Tiki-Takis at Box Office Bingers. Once again, thanks for listening.